Hi, guys. Should I flip? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Awesome. There we go. Boom. Technology.
Pyramid One Radio.
Awesome. Can you hear me okay? Okay, good.
This is a Pyramid One International Network presentation. Hi, and welcome to Pyramid One Radio. Welcome to A View of Humanity with your host, Jamie Clark. Jamie Clark discovered that he had the gift of psychic intuition and could also communicate messages and feelings between people living and those who have left this physical plane of existence. In other words, he can communicate with those we have loved and lost. Now, with thousands of powerful connections made worldwide and years of experience as his guide, Jamie offers this healing phenomenon to those who need it most. People searching for life direction and guidance, as well as those seeking answers and closure from family and friends that have passed. How does Jamie's mediumship work? Let him tell you. Listen carefully. Triangulation of communication. He says, each of us is like a radio tuner. We have the ability to tune into many different channels. Before I read someone, I tune into our loved one's channel and send out an invitation of communication with you. Our souls are like fingerprints in a way that each of us is unique. Our loved ones know our soul print. And by our invitation and their realization, they now create a triangle of communication. Jamie says, Jamie to them to you, and you to Jamie. They know Jamie is on and are receptive and will sometimes come early to understand Jamie's rules and regulations and how most effectively to communicate. Now that we are all on the same channel, let's work together as a team. Let me introduce to you, to the world, to the universe, Mr. Jamie Clark.
I love it.
I love it, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
I was so excited for that part. I wanted to join in. Woohoo!
Awesome. And Dulce, thank you so much for being a guest and coming on to have some fun. Today, Bob, I want to get right into it if I can, just because I know this time flies by.
You ever notice
Cool.
we had a very small intro?
Yeah, you got it. Dulce Zoe is a certified life coach, hypnotherapist, and a holistic healing artist. She leads mastermind talks, retreats, and workshops to support people in growing through what they go through. Dulce is the founder of the Zoe Academy for Emotional Intelligence and Transcendance. She also posts videos for the public on YouTube and IGTV. When she is not Diving deep into her studies and teachings, Dulce enjoys indulging in the simple luxuries of life, such as a warm bath and the company of her beloved husband, Ari, her two stepchildren, and two dogs, which are just like children. Mayor deduced, Dulce Zoe. A pleasure, Dulce.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the introduction. I'm really excited to get on with you guys. I've watched like 5 of your videos, and I love what you're doing here, so thank you.
Good, and my pleasure. And Dulce and I are part of an organization called I-Empowerment. We're about giving information, insight, tools, and techniques to help you empower yourself to live a more productive and effective, powerful life. So, Dulce, what got you into this? Was there childhood experiences? What happened with that?
Well, I've always been a very spiritual child. I was raised by a single dad, so I always understood like the power of perception, because I remember being little and playing with kids and then being like, go ask your mom. And I'd be like, let me go ask my dad. And they're like, you don't have a mom? And I would feel like that they felt so much pity for me. But my dad was always so open, and like he was a California dad, first generation from Mexico, but he was very open-minded. So he'd tell me, well, why don't you tell them we're like Batman and Robin, and that we live together, but we have it all under control. So I was just like, okay, I'll try that. And then, because we would always watch, you know, the old school Batman and Robin cartoons. And I remember when I would tell moms, oh, my mom doesn't live here, I haven't met her, but me and my dad are like Batman and Robin, the energy would shift. And I remember being a little girl and being like, wow, literally nothing has changed. Like my house is still my house, but the perception, when that shifts, like everything shifts. And I just maintained that. I was aware of that. I went through a lot as a child. So I help people with trauma release, kind of overcoming some of the things I did, because through it all, I always knew it was about perception. Like I experienced sexual abuse as a child. And I remember thinking like, okay, that was traumatic, but if I don't assign anything to it, then it doesn't have to mean anything. And I remember being like, okay, that's what we're going to roll with, because your mind can't process that right now. And just continuing through life. It was kind of like an innate wisdom within me. I was actually telling Maggie, who's your fiance, about how I would go to the ocean. I love her. She's amazing. But I'd go to the ocean and I would be like, okay, you're my mother, ocean. Bring me a sand dollar. And it would happen. And I remember thinking when I wouldn't engage with the universe, nothing would happen. So it was that awareness of there's magic or there's no magic. It's up to you, you know?
And it sounds like at a young age, you came very quickly to start realizing who you are. But not only that, like you're sharing is the way you were saying it one way, they're kind of like, oh, you okay? To right. Batman and Robin go, oh, you're okay. How about, you know, and exactly, because I found that the emotional connection to the information becomes an even more amplifying energy. As you were learning those tools and techniques at a young age, that seems to not only be what you're good at as one of those, but that it's first nature to the essence of your being, not second nature. And when you can do that, did that help you refine the way you wanted to help other people?
Yes, 100%. Because I realized, what was it about me? Because people would be like, are you on something? Like, why are you happy? Like, your life just doesn't seem like, you know, if I was in your position, I probably wouldn't be as happy. And I remember it was always, I realized, what is it? And then I became a stepmom maybe like 7 years ago. And I remember for me, I started feeling like, ooh, I'm so insecure in this role. Like, how do I fit into the family? And that's when I learned about coaching. And I realized that's what it was for me. It was the power of perception. And then understanding that and being able to develop skills to help people understand, what do I feel? And then not like abandoning our feelings and being like, that feeling sucks. Because I did that. I remember when I became a stepmom, I'd be like, I don't want to play Barbies again. And I'd be like, you suck for not wanting to play Barbies. And then I just was like, it's okay, Dulce. It's okay if you don't want to play Barbies. Just play Barbies whenever it feels like it, and you'll have so much more fun. So then I became like the best Barbie fashion designer, because I love that, you know? So it's all about, I feel like, being present with your feelings, not negating them, and not being like, you're terrible for this, and kind of loving a better side in a win-win situation for everyone.
You know, and I think that's an interesting point that you bring up. Not only that, but as you were sharing, when you go to the sea, hey, mother, give me some of this. Give me some of the abundance from the essence of your spiritual oneness. And I think you
Yes.
being able to find that at such a young age, for myself as well, I had those dynamics. I just had to do this my whole life. I'm like, I don't know, this is just who I am. I don't know anything different. With that, as a young child, did you start to have a lot of friends when you were younger? And because of that, were they kind of distant? What happened?
I always had a lot of friends, but I think it was all of my friends were very surface. So that's one of the things about me. Like in high school, my senior year, I was actually homeless, living like in a car with a friend for maybe like 4 months, and I was nominated for prom queen. Nobody knew. So
Wow.
it was, I think for me, it was always that whole like putting up a protection, that fancy form of fear of everything is fine. I'm just a perfectionist, instead of realizing like, I'm just letting you in to where I'm comfortable. And if you get too close, it's going to be weird because I'm so highly sensitive that I'll feel everything. And I think that's when I realized, relationships are really important, and having boundaries, what feels safe. For me, what felt safe when I was younger was very different than what feels safe now. And I think just growing up, I kind of felt like I had to keep a layer of protection, but it was more like hiding in plain sight. Like, hey, look at how funny I am. Nobody asked me about my personal life, you know?
Well, and like I do, you never really know what a person's life experience has been to get them to where they are as they sit before you going, holy crap, you went through that and you've got that kind of a great attitude. Like I do, as we grow up, you either repeat patterns or you change them. For me, I
Right,
changed a lot of the stuff.
right,
And my real parents,
right,
amazing. The other person, a lovely person. But
right.
with and that sensitivity, because you're like me, apparently you were always feeling energy of other people. Would that make you a little bit more insightful to understand where they were coming from so that you
Right,
could communicate, not just talk? And did that
right.
parlay into adulthood in this way?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think that was always important for me, how things felt. That's always been very important. Yes, the logical deciding factors of it, but I know your intuition never steers you wrong. And I think that's one of those things where when I was coaching people, I was like, but have faith. And they're like, what is that? So I love how galactic your guys' show is, how it's not just physical, cellular, it's the whole universe, because it is all interconnected. And I think that gets really hard for people to understand. But I think if you just are willing to feel into it, it's a lot higher of a connection and just a more authentic life you can build. And I think that's one of the reasons we have a lot of disconnection, because we do what we think looks good for society, but it doesn't feel good for us because all of our values are so different.
Well, and that's the big thing. Feelings to me are the language of the soul. Words are the language of the mind, nothing but mere vibrational patterns on the ear nubs and train yourself to hear the patterns and apply a meaning. That's why, for me, that one feeling on my soul nub is worth 1,000 words and then some. It gives me more fullness to understand where that person is at so that I can communicate the best that I can, not just talk. Because when they
Right,
do that, most of us are used to being talked to rather than talked with. And
right.
for you, like me, I'm sure my stuff that I went through, I've been able to heal myself a lot by all the stuff I pull up to go, oh, yeah, I remember that one. I've gone through that stuff so much, I've lost a lot of the emotional attachment
Oh
and
yeah.
accept it for what it is as the experience. Has that helped you in a lot of different ways?
So much. And I really do. I love that you said that. You kind of are like, oh, yeah, I remember I had that trauma too, because I really do believe that's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is kind of removing that vibrational imprint. And I think that happens. A lot of people are like, well, how can I forgive them? I can't just forget about it. But I feel like, yeah, when you forgive, you just kind of do forget about it. Like it just happens. It's no longer useful.
Well, and I think once they put those to the test and then there's a reaction, because, for myself,
Mhm.
what is this meditating manifesting? Because if
Right.
I'm not getting an outside as I perceive it, result, then why am I doing this? For me, I want
Right.
that practicality of spirituality. As you
Yes.
give others insights and you understand more fully where they're coming from, are you able to give them the potential of where they're heading and possibly some tools and techniques, some modalities to get there? not necessarily, some will go, and here's the potential of what you can do, and there's this big old abyss going, duh, should I go down, and how am I supposed to get to this? Because there's a big gap here. Do you
Right.
give insight, tools, and techniques for others to empower?
Yeah, definitely. I think the power of visualization is so important. And I think that we get really caught up in how am I going to get from here to here? And it's more about getting caught up, I think, in how is it going to feel when I'm there? What kind of person do I need to be to get there and to feel successful? Because there's things I wanted to be Oprah 5 years ago, but if you would have put me on TV, I would have probably pooped my pants, you know? So it's about understanding what we want and taking the little steps and moving towards what honors that position, what honors that place. Like I work with a lot of people who have a lot of trauma and they say, I want a healthy relationship and I want someone who listens to me and I want someone who understands me and who wants the same things I want. And then I'll be like, okay, so what is like the top 5 things you want? And they really don't know. They know what they don't want. So I think that's the big thing. It's just starting by just getting really clear on what you want very clearly. And a lot of us believe, I think we have subconscious beliefs that tell us that we don't deserve what we want, that it's wrong or it's selfish. And I think that that's a big part of my work is releasing that and seeing that having what you want, making time to meditate. It's not about always connecting with spirit. We're not always going to have this amazing transcendental experience, even though we can sometimes. But sometimes it's about getting conscious with that space so that when things are crazy and you are triggered, because we are human and we are going to get triggered, you can kind of breathe and remember like, oh, I'm a Zen person. Like I can meditate, so I can take a moment before I respond or speak. So those are 2 things.
And I think it brings up an interesting point as you were sharing, Dulce, and that is, on average, most of us will live in a reactive state. And what I mean by that is, here's what a lot of us do. If I have this job, then I feel successful. And if I have this amount of money, then I feel wealthy. And we'll wait for that outside physical manifestation of money or job to happen to feel successful and happy and fulfilled. When if you'll start vibing with that in a proactive state, not a reactive waiting, but the proactive, I found that my energy vibe of what I sent out as a result already there, the more tactile senses, not just visualizing, it's feeling how it feels to have that already there. Have you manifested a number of different things that maybe years before you didn't know you could, and now you are?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think I would be a stepmom because I never wanted to have kids, so that was one of the things when I fell in love with my husband. It was one of those soul connections. I didn't know about auras and all of that when I met him, but I just would tell people he was just glowing. He was just glowing and I just like had to be close to him type of thing, and our first date was very much like, do you feel this? Because I feel this. Yeah. Okay. Inseparable ever since, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, no, go ahead. I'm listening. That's excellent.
Okay, so with that, it was just the understanding of like, okay, I trust my intuition enough to know that I've never felt this before, and he has 2 kids, and that's scary. But let's just kind of work with that idea. How would it look like if I was a stepmom? Like, how could I see myself? And then I realized, oh, I have trauma around the mom name because I never grew up with a mom. So then that was an understanding. And then for a year, I was like, then you don't have to be a mom, baby. You're a role model. How do you show up as a role model? And then it was just like, wow, being graceful with myself and kind of maneuvering those. We built a business in our first year of marriage, which is, I think, very difficult for you to do because you're learning to communicate still and you're living together and now you're building something together. And we were able to move through that. And I think so much I've been through. I was homeless for a while. I moved to Arizona on a Greyhound from California with like $500 in my pocket.
Oh.
You just, I think, trust divine inspiration and get guided. And I think it's scary, but you have to it's not as scary once you have a really good connection with spirit. And that's what I tell people. You're dating for like a year, when you're meditating. You don't have to take it all the way and trust spirit, but start with being like, can I have good parking spots? Like, can you please, I thought of a compass yesterday and my daughter comes home from Girl Scouts. I got a compass from Girl Scouts, just like little winks from the universe.
And what do you think go ahead, Bob.
I was gonna ask you a question, Jamie. What you just spoke about, is that soul attraction or energy attraction?
It is the energy attraction that your soul emanates.
Because what I'm thinking of, and I think we've talked about this net before, souls that were together years and years and millions and billions and trillions of years ago, all of a sudden see each other somewhere in the street and go, "Oh wow, look, I know you."
Don't I know you? I know I don't, but don't I?
Listen, I don't know you.
Yes.
Like, I know you last week or something.
Right.
I'm
And that's
serious
the
though.
point. And when you live that, for me, I wanted to see examples of that. And I think, like I do, Dulce, and that is you'll feel that soul connection.
Mm-hmm.
You won't always understand it, but you'll feel it. And in that, for me, getting those references of feelings, on average, when something's feeling like that, it's usually playing out like that. And when it feels like this, it's usually playing out like this. So the law of averages, you went psychic, huh? Because when it's feeling like that, it's going to usually play out. Did you give yourself a gauge, a range of allowing yourself to accept realities? And what I mean by that is a lot of us have an upper limit problem, meaning we'll only let so much love, happiness, and success into our lives till we bring ourselves right back down to where we're used to being. And then you create that vibe enough, right? Then you create this every so often in your life. Do you know what's weird? Just yesterday I made $3,000. And do you know what happened? The air conditioner went out. And do you know how much it cost to get it?
$3,150. Yeah, $150 more than you had.
Well, and that's the point is, it becomes that challenge that most of us create by default, meaning we don't understand why and how we get the things in our lives. For that, have you seen some of the co-creation with, others in the universe? Are you into other perspectives? Like, are you into karma? Are you into natural laws? Are you into any of those dynamics?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it's all pretty much like the same thing with different names. I really believe it's like energy that you send out comes back to you, just kind of like a battery, how the universe kind of works that way. It goes out, gets recharged, comes back. So I definitely believe in that. So that was always really important to me growing up. I was raised Catholic, and I just thought like it's beautiful. I love going to our church, but my dad would always be like, you get a dress and donuts. And I'd be like, okay, I'm there. I never really felt the spiritual connection in church other than when I was praying on my own, or I would sneak off to where they would light candles, and then I felt like I would have connections there. But for me, it was always more in nature, or just when I'm consciously having a relationship with life. And I feel like that's always been kind of the energy that I've had with it. So when I was little and I learned about Buddhist principles of it's just super simple, you don't hurt a living being and you're kind, I was like, that's what I'll roll with, because Catholicism is so heavy. Like Buddhist principles I can live with. So
and it becomes what feels good for you. There's as many worlds as there are perceivers. Nobody sees it the same, yet each just as real and just as valid. And I think in finding that, and your abilities to know more effectively who you are at a young age, did that give you an opportunity to now find yourself within life, not lose yourself to it? And in doing that, it seems like it also parlayed into finding yourself within a relationship and not losing yourself to it. Does that seem to happen for you quite a bit on other aspects as well?
Yeah, I think it's really easy to lose yourself in things because, we're all intermeshed and that happens. It's really easy to just let go for a little bit. And before you know it, you're like doing things that you would have never consciously made decisions to do had you not kind of let go. So I think that's easy to do, but that's why I think it's important once it gets to a point where I feel myself being like, okay, the salt baths and the daily journaling aren't doing it, I take a step. I like to really retreat. I will not social media at all for like a month. And just even though I make videos regularly, my people know I will go off for a month if I need to, because it's important to me to tap back in. And I think in this work, we get so caught up in really wanting to help because we know we can. And I feel like we're in a really special time where it's kind of like the forefront and everything the people have been doing for, since the 60s and 70s. We have scientific proof now. So we're like, we have to show everyone. But I think it's more about just relaxing and knowing that sometimes you show people this work by letting go and by tapping back into yourself and having some grace. I think that was a big thing for me, is having some grace and saying like, you decided you were going to do this, and deciding like, well, that worked for me 6 months ago, but now it doesn't, and it's okay.
And I think being able to grow into life and make those adjustments. It's like, Lordy, it's a perspective. Things change. That's the point.
Yeah.
You hold it so rigidly, you'll snap. And
Yes, I agree.
well, and as a life coach and the ability to help others, the Zoe Academy for Emotional Intelligence and Transcendance. Can you share with us what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, it's my new passion project. I just created it. I was noticing a lot of my friends will tell me, and I'm 33, so a lot of my friends are in that stage where they're in their early 30s, they're starting to have babies, they just got married, and they'll be like, I really want to do this, but I don't have time for it. Everyone says they don't have time for it, and I'm like, it's so accessible. So I wanted to create something online where there's resources, and you can do an online course. I know you guys have been pros in the online course department for a while, but this is something new for me. So I wanted to have it be somewhere where people could find it and just help themselves if they need to. We have a huge problem with anxiety and stress, and that's so 100% treatable. Like, we just need to relax a little bit and know that it can happen at any moment. People say they don't have time for it, but you could literally just focus on deep breathing as you're driving to the grocery store, and that would help your body so much. So it just wanted to create like a little resource hub where people could tap into their mentality in a spiritual way, because a lot of people forget about that. In my opinion, the people that I work with are like, spirit's weird, what about energy? I'm like, cool, energy, let's call it that. Whatever works with you, baby, as long as it's a bigger intelligence.
And what's acceptable. Exactly. And it's just a label.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and that's another thing is with the language, that feeling to me transcends all the languages. But some
Yes.
will perceive that, in some cases you need to know the name of God or whatever the case is. And
Right.
that is beautiful. But if that is the case, you need to know the name. I guess all the other languages on this planet are screwed, huh? Because they don't have the
Right.
same vibrational pattern.
Right. Yeah, that never made sense to me. I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah, it's true.
And so being able to, one, empower and heal yourself as you're growing up and know that you are 100% a person and complete, and others are 100% and complete.
Right.
What got you into the hypnotherapy? And may I ask, what exactly is that?
Yeah, well, hypnotherapy is a lot like you're basically guiding the subconscious. So what you do first is you get the body in a relaxed state. So one of the reasons it's kind of like meditation, but it's deeper because you're guiding your subconscious to basically go to a deeper level, and you spend a whole 30 minutes, or depending on what it is, you spend some time on just kind of relaxing and getting out of that conscious state. So what you do is you become kind of receptive, so you're able to shut down the conscious mind, or not have it lead, and have the subconscious be able to make those shifts and changes. Because a lot of times we want change, but we don't consciously believe we can have change. So that's what actually got me into hypnotherapy. Was I was coaching people and they'd be like, well, this is how my mom is. This is just the way I am. Like, I'm never going to change. I've always been this way. And I was like, well, that's just a limiting belief. And then they were like, well, I can't do anything. And I'd be like, let's do affirmations. And they'd be like, nobody has 30 days. So I was like, hypnosis, you can do it in one session, where you can calm the subconscious down, or the conscious mind down. The subconscious can come forward. We can work with it on it, just like you'd mentioned earlier, symbols and how powerful they are. You can work on a symbolic and visual layer, and the subconscious will adopt the layers. And just like it adopted the trauma, it can let it go.
And so by peeling away the layers of the soul in that way,
Mm-hmm.
do you take them through hypnotherapy into their childhood? Can you take them
Very
into
often.
past lives? Can you soul trace for people? Have
I
you done?
haven't done soul tracing. Sorry. I haven't done soul tracing, which is amazing, but I have taken people into their past lives, and we definitely do inner child work. I think that's so important. Every time we do trauma release, we do inner child work, because we feel so alone when we go through trauma, that having you as this wise adult being go back in and kind of support that younger you transforms it so fast. And it kind of helps you also recognize that that inner child is still within you, so have some grace as you're going through life.
And so by training people with their mental awareness, not that it's hypnosis, but I believe it is to a certain extent. I've seen on like America's Got Talent or, other shows like that, where they'll literally hypnotize whoever's allowing themselves to be hypnotized. And in one, they were like, and the number 7 no longer exists within the numbers. And she had all of the people count to 10. Every one of them skipped the number 7. Day-to-day living, didn't even know the difference. Can you hypnotize people in their own way of awareness to only see things, or to more effectively see things in a positive vibe, not so much of the negative? Because if you can get that, why not get this? Have you done that?
Right. That's cool. I'm interested in seeing that. So hypnotherapy is so powerful, but me personally, I don't really, unless it's something very traumatic that's impacting you, I don't really feel that it's very ethical for me to have something completely be removed. So a lot of times you see this with pain. People who have chronic pain want their pain completely removed, but the pain is a communicator. So it's communicating something. So I don't really work with completely removing things. I work more with helping you get to the root of why that's there, why that's present, what it's trying to communicate to you. Does that make sense?
Sure. And can you see them, can you give them tools and techniques to see their life more effectively than it is as they perceive it? So if
100%. I think that's one of the super awesome things about hypnotherapy is you guide someone through their subconscious, and their higher self knows exactly what they need to hear. Their higher self, we have an innate intelligence. We know what we need to release. We know what it is that we need to transcend. So whenever you start a hypnotherapy session, you always have a goal and an intention. So we always kind of have that energetic kind of anchor there. So we go towards that, and the subconscious does what it does with you, and you have that personal experience to show you what needs to be released, to show you that you are an infinite loving being, and it helps you connect to source. In my opinion, that's what I'm doing in every hypnotherapy session, is I'm kind of helping them transcend this 3D experience to be able to see things from a higher perspective, from a wiser perspective. And when you do that, there's always healing that happens, because it's always the fear that's attached to the experience that's holding us back.
And I think go ahead, Bob.
We got some questions that are coming up here. I got 3 of them already.
All right, bring it on, Dulce.
Because we've done this on this network and that before, and they probably just don't remember. How long do you spend with a client bringing them back?
So it depends. For like a past life regression, I take quite a while, maybe like 10 minutes. I have them walk away from it. I'll usually have them like take a boat, just so there's more disassociations and layers. And then I do sound healing as well. So once they come back, we make the conscious, we speak consciously that the auric body is closed, and then I'll go around with singing bowls just to kind of help them anchor back in. So something like a past life regression is very out of body. So I think giving the spirit some time to just kind of process it, root back. It takes about 15 minutes afterwards.
So how long is the session?
My past life regressions will be almost 2 hours. The hypnotherapy portion itself, where they're going through their past life, is probably 20 minutes. We have an intake for 20 minutes, and then the deepening and taking them into a relaxed state, and then letting go of the conscious mind and kind of going through the experience.
Cool. Now, on those, do you record?
I'm sorry?
Do you record?
No, I don't record them. My clients record their own sessions. It's something I might start doing, because I'm finally getting my own office space here in Arizona next month. So I think that'll be something that I'll be able to do more now, since I'm not traveling to 3 different offices to work.
That'll work. Okay, now, this is actually something that came off Jamie. How many, like peeling the onion, right? How many lives do you or can you go back?
I only only do 3 at a time, but I'm sure people have had infinite lives. One, my teacher actually told me that she's met with somebody for the past 10 years and something always comes up. So I really think it really depends on your own soul's journey. But for me, I only do 3 at a time because then it's overwhelming and I feel like you really understand what you need to heal in those 3. And sometimes people will only see 1 and it's done. So it really depends on their subconscious and their own personal journey.
And do you identify how many lives they've had here on this rock?
We could. I've never done that myself, but we definitely could. Your body is like a lie detector. So just like you can, say yes or no and, your body gets weak, you can also say, what age did this happen? And you can test the body and it'll tell you, you can say, how many past lives have I had? Is it in the 50s? Is it in the 100s? And the subconscious will tell you, the body will reflex.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised that I was identified by this thing, and I have 11. So I'm a
That's
baby.
awesome.
I'm a baby. I mean, I haven't.
You are a baby. I know.
Exactly. It's like forget about it. I mean, I'm ready. You know what I mean? It's like they say to people who die, they have funerals, they've passed away, all this stuff. No, it's not a funeral. It's a continuance.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
And I think that brings up another aspect of the soul, the eternal beingness of who we are. Because people, that's outside of the physical body. Yeah, but guess what? I believe scientifically they validated that basically every 7 years you have a completely whole new body and all cellular structure. So, who is the you that continues to think through every one of those 7-year bodies of complete resurrection in that vehicle? And in doing that as eternal beings, okay, this is lovely with this life here on this planet. What about other planets? What about other dimensions? What about other universes? I'd go on, but what is that? Have you tapped in? Have you tapped into somebody who maybe inadvertently did another life on another planet or in another dimension? Has that ever been experienced?
Yeah, that's actually happened to me personally while I was in school, and it's happened to me in one of my sessions. So personally, it was really interesting because I think one of the powerful things about past life regressions is they help you see problems and issues or patterns that you have that you might not be conscious of in this life from kind of a detached perspective. So one of the things that happened for me was I was noticing I had a past life regression, and it was a complete light being, and he was having an issue with just wanting to heal all his plants. It was a male entity and not wanting to go out into the real world. And that was so in alignment with what I was going through. I was like, why can't I just read another book on hermeticism? Why do I have to get more clients? And then I was just like, because this is your calling and because you get tired of that after a while, But go ahead. Sorry.
When did you know it was your calling?
My calling was to share this. So even though people were going to think I was weird in that life, because in that life I had really weird tentacles, and I guess people in my land had shorter arm tentacles and mine were really long, and that was supposed to be because that would help you heal more people, but people would look at me weird and I didn't like it. So it was very similar to this life where I feel like, hi, nice to meet you, and people are like, oh, normal professional person, what do you do? I'm a hypnotherapist. And then everyone's like, oh, can you make me cluck like a chicken? And immediately I felt like there was this shift of perspective. But I feel like that's changed a lot nowadays, because I think a lot of us, like you and so many of us, are doing the work to get out there and be like, hi, I'm a normal person. Nice to meet you.
Just like everybody else. And these abilities are so natural. They're supernatural. That's the point, man.
Jamie, repeat your question about when.
What?
He said, when did you know it was your calling?
For
when
me?
Did I know?
For him.
Yeah, when did you know, Dulce?
Okay, so I think I knew about 7 years ago, because I was very comfortable doing this myself, and I realized I needed to start helping other people, and I knew this was it. But I knew ever since I was really little that it was my calling to help people heal. I remember I was like 7 and my dad was like, oh, this is the new age section. That's for weird people. And I was like, I'm a weird person. Like, I want to go there, you know? And so I think I've always known. I just thought I would become like a magician or a witch. And then I realized all that. And I'm like, but being a healing artist is so much better because you really help people change people's lives. And you can still study all of this energetic stuff that you're into, you know, just do it in a logical way for people to help.
Well, and I love the way that you say healing artist, meaning
Yes.
exactly the soul canvas is completely open. What do they want to paint that soulscape as? And when you can do that, are you able, because everything's energy, but are you able to amplify a person within their own abilities, no manipulation, co-creation, but through a visualization to become more empowered? And can you help them create a vibrational intensity that can radiate from them to connect with other people? Like, can you take a father figure who might be having some challenges with the children and possibly with a wife, and you take him through some visualization, some tools and techniques, and some hypnotherapy, and you get him on a new experience, a new channel. Instead of approaching the problem to change it, do you give them the solutions to allow the problems to change into the solutions?
Yes, 100%. So what we do is we basically envision the person that they want to become, their authentic selves, who they are, what it is that's holding them back. And you can go a few ways around it. If the person really likes to let it go and release, it depends on how it feels for you. If it feels heavy and you want to let it go, then we can subconsciously release it. And it's through a symbolism. So it would be like a rock that you throw or something that you take off. Another way that you can do it is we can envision what the new normal is and really start to fade away the current reality that's happening and envision your subconscious seeing the new reality in a brighter, more, HD capacity. And then you step into that.
Now, with the new normal, that's their own individualized perception of how normal is, right?
Right.
So if
Totally.
you can give them that, can you get them to normal, create anything else? This is the norm. I've now accepted in my own perspective. This is as real to me as yours is to you. Have you seen people being able to amplify, or artists to become even better painters in that way to channel information?
100%. 100%. So it'll happen when they release things. It'll happen when they bring them up. One way that it happens hugely, where I see their auric body really expand, is one of the things I do in hypnotherapy is spirit releasement. So if a person feels like they're doing something and it's not them consciously doing it, like if you have an alcohol issue and you're like, I swear I did not buy any wine, and then I blacked out and I wake up and I have 3 bottles of wine. That sometimes will do a spirit releasement if you see it in a third person. I know it sounds funny, but if you feel like it's really not you, it could be an attachment. So I've done spirit releasements, and there's many theories on this, whether or not it's an actual spirit attached to the auric body. There's been many theories around that, but the truth of the matter is, and I've seen this time and time again, when you release a spirit, it has its own name, it has its personality, it has its story on when it connected, attached to the person, and it goes off into the light, and the person can change immediately because they no longer feel that pull.
Entity attachments. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Some
That's
people
regression.
get
It's all
good
to do with that.
Yeah, so that's when I've seen the biggest auric changes, where I'm like, whoa. But other than that, people will do it for healing, and that will naturally grow the aura. I feel like anything that they're really doing is helping them connect more to love, which I feel takes away the fear little holes that can happen in the auric body.
And I think once they get that bigger picture, so to speak, of it is all one, we're all the ocean and the droplet is the ocean. Through that empowerment, I've seen that vibe of energy create such a magnetic energy for that person that people are just drawn to them. I think that we find that in actors and actresses and ball players and all those people, that they're in the mass consciousness. Now the ability of power in numbers, just for my awareness, I've also come to realize that a lot of us that want people's autographs that are well known are wanting that vibe of energy to go, can I have a little bit of that? Because that feels good.
Right.
You help people to realize or amp that energy power up to that level as we perceive it. And what I mean by that is the reason why a lot of the well-known people have such a larger than life energy is because the mass consciousness is focused energy on that person.
Hmm.
Have you been able to take like maybe a team and create power in numbers for an amplified healing energy or for an amplified redirection of their conscious thought? Has that ever been there, or have you ever thought about that in
I
any way?
haven't done that. That sounds really fun, though. It reminds me a lot of the work you did with Tina. I watched your guys' interview and really liked it, and I know she does a lot of that auric expansion. When we do that, it's mostly focusing on love. So I'll have people tune into something. Usually it's a pet because, people, we speak and then we develop weird vibrations with each other. So I have them visualize a pet and then just kind of expanding that energy out. I've noticed that makes people like really consciously aware of their influence, because a lot of us like to think that we don't affect a room, but all of us, as we know, definitely affect a room. So kind of taking ownership for that and having vibrational integrity, I think just having that awareness really clicks for people, like, oh, you're right, and then they start thinking of celebrities like you just mentioned, Jamie, and being like, I totally want that person. And you just totally like told me something I'd never thought about. Because I grew up in California, so I'd be like, why do people want celebrities' autographs? It doesn't make sense. I'm no cooler from having his autograph, but you're right. It's the energetic imprint. It's the exchange. So thank you for that awareness. That's good
Well,
to know.
yeah, and it's the energy sharing. That's, because I've just done my whole life, but you see those vibrational patterns and how people are interacting in the co-creation with everything, not the manipulation. I
Right.
found that in being able to do that and understanding where they come from, I was able to communicate even more effectively, not just talking to them, talking with
Right.
them. And yeah, I think, like I do, a lot of times, they'll be like, I've heard that crap 1,000 times, but click, you know what? I haven't seen it that. You know what? I'm going to try that, and I'm going to let you know. And I'm like, please do. And they usually get a great result. That kind of a connection with them adjusting their perspective through hypnotherapy and others. Do you give them other tools and techniques to amplify, to co-create with other people? Basically, some tools and techniques to manifest their dreams even more
Yes,
effectively.
definitely. So I think one of the big things that I do is I really help people regrow their relationship with spirit. I think a lot of people are mad at God, because a lot of us were raised in situations where we felt like God was very judgmental and nothing we could do would be good enough, or the universe. So I think that's one of the big things that I do is I teach people to start just playing with the universe, having some fun with it. We forget to have fun as we get older and realizing like, yes, we have to go pick up our kids from school, and that might not be very fun, but on the way there, let's just ask for like a purple BMW and just see if it shows up for it to drive by in a red light. Start engaging the universe and start seeing that even though things happen that you might feel are bad, there might be an intelligence out there that knows a little bit more than we do.
Is that like the law of attachment? Yeah, law of attraction.
It's the law of attraction, but I feel like it's also the law of resonance. Like Jamie had said, it's very much about, believing that it's going to come, visualizing it, and just kind of engaging, I think, the universe. It's more of the law of attraction, because the law of resonance would be more of like a feeling around it.
Well, it's the vibe that you send out, and it's the
Right.
key of training and discipline. What I mean by that is, on average, people will do this. For about 2 hours today, I meditated. I am unlimitedly abundant. And the rest of the day, they're like, oh my God, I don't have the money. I don't have. And then they wonder
Right.
why.
Why it don't work?
Right. That the brokenness
Right.
is outweighing the abundance.
Yes, that's so important. It's the energy you bring to things. And I always say that you can either, like, I love to feed the hummingbirds, they're everywhere in Arizona and they're so friendly. But I've gotten to places where I'm like, oh, let me feed the hummingbirds, and it's all happy. I give it Reiki love. And then there's times where I'll be like, I haven't fed the hummingbirds. The world is going to stop turning without me. And then I realize, like, relax. The hummingbirds don't need this energy. So it's all about it. I'm still filling the hummingbird feeder, but it's the energy you bring to it. And I think we don't realize how important that is, how felt it is and how much it shifts everything.
You know, you want to hear somebody when they lose their cell phone.
Right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yeah,
true.
Exactly.
How much that technology that's bringing us together is truly separating us. Because here's
Yes.
how everyone is, and they're right in front of each other, going,
Right.
remember this? Old school? Lord.
Right.
You know, I think that's
Call them on the phone. That's a pretty good idea, right? Do they do that? No, they text.
well, and that's the thing, exactly. You know, so it's not always easy in that way. Going, if you're right there on the phone, yes, but just like that, it takes the ability to co-create. And what I mean by that is exactly like Dulce is saying, hey, you know what? We're waiting on the birds and they're beautiful. But you know what? I got a little more proactive too, because I had a target. I wanted to see these hummingbirds, and then I knew what they liked, and I put them together because I put it on the tree, and now I'm waiting for them to come to me. And apparently you did. So you're psychic, right? Because now you're saying it before. Right. Now you're creating a prophecy. Do you give them other tools and techniques? For me, I want the, just like you do more than likely, I want the practicality going 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
You know, that kind of a soulscape and the seed of consciousness that we plant within those soulscapes, the soil, which is a natural law that's never selective of itself. I teach, well, I don't teach them anything. They teach themselves. But I'll share insight to give them tools and techniques to plant the seeds that they do want more than what they don't want.
Right.
And then I found, I don't know if you did or not, but I found for me the way that I pray or ask for things is a big key to success. Because for, you know, I've been doing the psychic stuff my whole life, but I would do this most of my life. Universe, keep me protected, keep me protected, keep me protected. Because I need to be kept protected. And she, my master guide, excuse me, was like, Jamie, that's a very nice intent. However, if you keep asking the universe to keep you protected, it will continue to bring you more circumstances to keep protected about. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I need to be kept protected. And his response, well, how about rather than ask for protection, you give gratitude for safety. And I'm like, that sounds like semantics, playing on words. And as a response to the way you approach the universe, it approaches you. Again, yeah, it's always for us and never, ever against us. It's like a child who doesn't register negatives. If you say, don't touch that, what does it hear? Touch it, touch it, touch it.
Right.
So I found the way I would present, and if I pray for anything from the universe, I give gratitude that I've received it. I bring it round to me like the boomerang effect. Otherwise, I found, just for me, when I would pray for things, and if I didn't give gratitude and feel as though it's already here, that was the Frisbee approach. And here's when you think you're making things happen. And universe, and I'd like to see, and do I need to go pick that up? Because that's what you think you're doing stuff, because you'll keep getting more work, because that's how you're perceiving it. For me, I'm lazy. If this step, doing prayers, lighting candles, tuning in to get there is there, I'm already there. Because I know if those steps are going to get you there mentally, I'm already there and I bring it to me. I'm lazy. I no longer chase or follow my dreams. I am my dreams and I live them more. Right here, right now. Not someday, now. Has that given you more passion for your own life? Because you know, like I do, people are eyeballing you and looking at you as the end result to go, they'll say, I love your end result. So if what you're saying is going to get me like you, I'm listening. But if you're not doing that, I equate that like you're 800 pounds at a gym telling people, I'm going to show you it'll look good. And that's a beautiful intent, right? But not quite the end result I might be looking for. For you, have you seen people stand more powerfully in their life, regain their integrity, their self-awareness, and their appreciation through self-realization, no longer narcissism? Have you given people the opportunity to see things differently like that, or have they done that in front of you?
Totally, 100%. And I love it just like you said it. That's so true. So often I feel like we're so clear on what we don't want. We pray for what we don't want, and we send that energy to it. I always say your power is in your focus, and what you focus on expands. We are co-creators, whether or not we want to act like we are. Like, we're co-creating. That's just it. That's what we were created to do. So I think the biggest things I always have anyone do, and I think that's something anyone can start doing, is visualization, like I said, but for your day ahead. So So every morning, one of the things I do is I dedicate myself in the morning, because I sleep with my husband, and sometimes I'll wake up and literally a minute later he's like, blah, 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 what about this and this and this? And I'm just like, wait. So I had to bring up something quick to kind of anchor. So as soon as I open my eyes, I say, I'm a vessel for love and light, because that immediately re-anchors me. So if anything happens where, the house is going insane because everyone needs breakfast, it doesn't matter, because I'm a vessel for love and light, and the breakfast will be made with love and light when the time comes, But visualizing, I think, your day in the best case scenario is really important. I work with a lot of people who have anxiety, and it's the whole disaster mindset. You think always the worst is going to happen, and then your body is prepared for that. And then we make ourselves sick. So I always say, a lot of us are overthinking. We live in the information age. We're obsessed with information, just like we have an obsession with technology, quick story that I thought was really cool. I was studying with some shamans that were giving a workshop, and they were talking about how one person in their tribe went into the future and had a vision that everyone had glowing palms. Have you heard of that?
No, I'm listening to you.
Yeah,
though.
Well, they talked about how everyone had glowing palms, and he came back to his tribe and he told them everyone has glowing palms, and this has been something that's been handed down generation to generation. They didn't even have electricity then, so they couldn't really fathom it. But now we all essentially have glowing palms since we're walking around with our phones. If somebody from 5,000 years ago came in, that's what they would, perceive. So I thought that was really interesting.
Right. Well, and it's science fact now,
Right.
And I think that kind of a dynamic, exactly like you're talking about, I create a future memory, just like you're saying, hey,
Yes.
so at the end of that day, there is no future, there is no past. By creating a future memory, I'm right in the present of the reality that I accept. And I've been doing it 50-something years, but I've also seen the co-creation with others to go, I create a future memory, like last night. Before I went to sleep, I mentally was already at the end of this following day today, with my energy intent through everyone else's energy field and back to mine with those who even choose to vibe with the energy. Never manipulation, co-creation. Have you seen other people that went from disempowerment and lonely and on their own to giving them a few sessions and getting that self-realized power back? And not only that, maybe starting an organization or a company or start artwork. Is there anything that people have really opened up to from?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For some people, they only need 1 or 2 sessions and their life is completely turned around. I actually have one client who's now going to school to do this work. We had 2 sessions and her life completely turned around. And I think it's just about realizing a lot of us just give our power away unconsciously, and we feel like that's just the norm. And when we become empowered, when we realize oh, nobody knows me better than me because I'm with me 24 hours a day. Even my mother won't know what's best for me like I do. I think that gives people such a big strength of, so much strength and this freedom, and it's kind of like the world opens up for them. And I think that's when big change happens, when people get to the place where they're like, I'm gonna ride for me, no matter what. And that's when magic happens. That's when we show up for people with an open heart. That's when we are really in relationship. And I think that that's a big thing, is realizing that loving you and doing what's best for you is what's best for everybody.
And I think you bring up an interesting point with the glowing palms. Now, this was a long time ago that this soul saucer went through the soulscape and got that information.
Right.
Once it was come back and shared with it, apparently they accepted that as a reality without understanding it necessarily, but they accepted it and then functioned from that. Can you give people new perspectives and new attitudes? Well, they give it to themselves, but help them.
Right, they do.
In that way to where they can go back and make that difference of sharing the light. Light is information, love is creation kind of thing. But sharing that light with other people and let it brighten, let it expand, let it unify. Sometimes it takes a while to manifest that end result, but if you can get enough people on the same page, 51% tipping point, click, can manifest. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think anytime one of us changes, everyone around us changes. I think the hard part, and I think the sticky kind of middle part, is you wanting to change everyone around you when you change, because they're going to change on their term, on their time, and they're on a different journey than we are. And I think that's where when people heal and they come to a session or they leave after a few sessions, they're like, oh my goodness, my life has changed. I want to change everybody's life. And it's the whole redirecting the focus and knowing that it's about you, and knowing that as you change and as you show up differently, they'll naturally want to come and change. And that's happened time and time again. I always end up working with groups of women in the family, because one person will change and then first there'll be a discord of like, well, she thinks she's so much better because she won't gossip with us now, to then like, she's so loving, I feel so accepted to her. And then now the whole family's dynamic has shifted to where they get together and do something productive like craft, or they get together and cook, as opposed to getting together and talking bad about other people. But you're not aware of these patterns until you're aware of them and until you change the dynamic. And then I think you notice everything changes.
Well, and
it just takes time.
Well, yeah, and sometimes that time is an illusion, but
right.
It sounds like the very energy vibe of what you're giving that person that they're accepting for themselves is life, is fullness, is empowerment. And it also seems to create ideas of co-creation with others, whether it's cooking or artistry or any of those. Are you able to target certain vibes of energy to give people that, of course I can do this and bring my friends together and I'm going to cook, or of course I can bring this organization together and I'm going to help the world, I'm going to help this and I'm going to help that? Can you give them, or you already know you can, but have you seen them take that and create like an organization that helps others? Of course, others that want to help in one-on-ones, but more planetary, even more effectively and quickly, I'll say.
Right. I haven't seen anyone who's gone out and created an organization or anything after I've helped them, but I have seen that everything changes when your belief changes. And I think that's it. It's the belief system that we're really shifting. So everything is shifting for them. They go from seeing themselves as someone who's a victim of their circumstances to seeing themselves as a co-creator of their life, or at least, kind of playing with that idea. And I think if you start with that, it really just naturally blossoms and you become more aware of how the universe is always engaging with it. And if you really consciously engage, things get funner, life gets better. And it's always when I'm working with someone, what's your perfect life? Like with this specific person, she's like, I don't know what we're going to do. And I'm like, well, if you did know, what would that look like? And she's like, well, we would sew. So then we're like, okay, so bring a bunch of sewing stuff. So it's always for them, because you could put 10 of us in a room and all of us are going to have different ideas of what fun is, so it's really very individual. And that's why I think it's a holistic healing art, because it's about moving towards what makes you happy, moving towards what brings you joy, moving towards what feels fun. And then if that doesn't work, releasing attachments to that and trying something new, and if it does work, being like, great, yay, and not being like, really, I'm happy sewing. Like, yeah, let's not judge ourselves. Let's just be happy,
And when you put that stuff to the test and you start to get a result, then it's real. Then you'll shift your belief system to a knowing system. Of confidence, not cockiness. There's a difference.
100%. Well, I think it's the wisdom of it. The ego is always wanting to seek outside validation. And earlier you talked about how we're always looking for, the results. And it's true. We really have to understand that the results are there, but they're never as grand as we assume they are. I remember for me, when I got my first business, it was like my biggest dream. And when me and my husband built our first business, I was like, where's the fireworks? Like, where is that? And then I realized, like, oh, that's my ego thinking that there had to be something big, like the movies show it. But really it's the unfolding of it that's beautiful. The being around people that you feel love for, being happy, genuinely happy, like laughing so much that you cry. Like, those are the things that really, make us feel alive and that make life worth living, in my opinion.
Well, and that makes a big difference, because there's always room. We are always growth-seeking beings. No matter how many dreams, how many aspirations like you have, once you attain them, we got more. So
Right.
half the fun's the journey getting there, and here's how most of us are. Yeah, this is freaking great. And
Right.
and I think
And
that,
then we
like
put
you
you
do,
in a
because
cage in the corner over there.
yeah, I'm usually looking at the corner of my own, man. I'm good. But with those dynamics and being able to understand myself a little bit more, self-realized is huge. Not an ego, not better or worse, but equal.
Right.
That kind of a vibe, people will feel that energy and the sincerity. You know that. You'll know when someone's speaking with passion and the fullness of their heart and soul, or if they're speaking with their mind. And they love you. You'd be like, wow, that sounds good. Why is that hollow? That doesn't feel
Right.
full. And that kind of a connection that I've seen as people pour that life essence back into who they really are and
Right.
feel it, then you realize we are complete. It's just when we're in this body and we have the distractions of there's only this,
Right.
that bound, right, that unbridled gratitude, happiness, and fulfillment, it all comes from within. And everything's the empowerment. No longer, I think you've heard quite a bit that, they make me angry or they make me happy.
Right.
They don't make me anything. I make
Right.
myself happy or angry in response to that. Have you given people some tools and techniques to work with those kinds of things in their day-to-day experience? Like, oh, you know what? And they'll say, I just had that. And you know what? Unusual. I was buying into what they were saying about me. And what was interesting is I recalled what we did in our session. I didn't give them the fun of feeding that crap, and they got pissed and walked away. I'm like, good for you.
I know. All the time. It's so amazing. I love it when they'll be like, everything changed. And all I did, a lot of times what happens is I'll invite them to say nothing, because I think it's difficult to jump from being someone who's very reactive and says all of these things to being someone who says all of the right things. So I really invite them to just kind of take a pause. And I tell them it's okay to not respond right away. And they'll say, and then it went away and the problem wasn't as big, or I didn't push him. And then I realized that I had been triggering. It always comes back to you. So I like to always honor the power of pause. So I think that's a really good place to start, is just pausing and just kind of taking some space to be like, how do I feel about this interaction? Because I don't think a lot of us realize, like you mentioned, anger, that we feel anger, and some anger is righteous. Some people are saying things that aren't right, and you feel like this is an injustice. But what does that do to your body? Is you really having this conversation going to shift the dynamic? I think always focusing on what solution you want, being aware of your anger, working past that. One of the things I tell people to do when they're angry, and if you're feeling small because of your anger, I say, go in the shower and start stomping and be like, I'm an effing giant, because then you feel big, and then they're like, and I felt so much better. I think it's just about reframing the way you see yourself and doing fun things like stomping and saying, I'm a giant, look at how little that tile is on the floor, helps your conscious mind buy into the fact that you are big, you aren't small. And as a big co-creative being, you can shift this dynamic. So you don't have to be so angry. You don't have to come guns a-blazing. You can trust in your inner wisdom, and you can trust that you deserve this, or that you want to change this interaction and bring it forth. So. And
getting them to feel that power to go, good, is that? See how big you are? Because guess what? Life's relative. It keeps going. And when you do that, I've seen people who were very timid and like this, that were maybe, very short in stature, realize their own power and self-worth, that they're standing like 10 feet tall, and people are looking like, wow, you have such a big presence. Exactly, because this vehicle is nothing but a vehicle to house the soul to get around, whether human, animals, or insects. It's only a vehicle to house a soul. Everything is consciousness. But within that, I think that for myself, and more than likely you've seen it, when they can see you using these tools and techniques in your own life, I want to make sure you're not a hypocrite going, do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, frick that. I'm doing. You can feel it, yeah. Exactly.
Totally, 100%. And I think that is big. And I think sharing personal stories with your clients. I think we're in this work, and you've been in this work much longer than me. And I honor all of you guys who've been doing this, because I felt weird going into it. I can't even imagine like 12 years ago or 20 years ago going into it. If I felt ostracized, it must have been even harder before. But it's true. It's just about following your heart and keeping it moving and going forward. And I think that it's all about the power of our perception. And I think once you can recognize that and you can see that it's so much bigger than what we have available, and this is really a gift. I know the present is a present sounds corny, but it's like so the truth, So telling people and showing them your humanity and saying, hey, I know I do this for 20 something years, or for me, for 1 year. Just getting them to know that we're all human really helps.
Dulce, how can people get a hold of you? Where can they go?
Check out my website, dulcezo.com, or check out the iEmpowerment website so they can see all of our upcoming events.
And how about Facebook?
I'm not on Facebook much, but I'm on Instagram, Dulce_zo. And I'm on YouTube as well.
Yeah, we have that address for Instagram and all her addresses are on the blog. And they're all over, by the way, Facebook. It's on all our websites on Facebook.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Dulce, and we'll be talking soon again. And if you're open, I'd love to have you on at another time. I think
Definitely. I had so much fun with both of you guys. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
We're brothers. You didn't know that?
That's it.
No.
Butter, man. We've known each other for now 8 years, I believe, right?
Going on 8 years. Yeah. The Pyramid One will be 9 years old, June 12th.
Yeah. So almost 9 years. God, how time flies.
Ooh. Wait.
And that's the point is, to me, age ain't nothing but a number. How do you
No, it's not.
That's that.
Like Christine Northrup, goddesses never age, and I so believe that. I know people in my life, some of my best friends are in their 60s. I know people who are 20 and feel like they're ancient, like they say, and people who are older and are just so young and vibrant. And you guys totally are, honestly. And you and Maggie, I remember being like, I want to hang out with them. So I'm so glad that we all connected and that iEmpowerment brought us together.
There you go. I'm more than double her age.
Triple, brother.
Oh, well, triple. Well, you know
Triple.
it is. Yeah.
That's funny.
Well,
age is just a number, like we said, right?
Well, listen, in another lifetime, I was.
A lot of them.
Well, in another lifetime, I was older than both of you. Just kidding.
What's funny is, you were.
I know.
Could have been.
But also, I think that, in doing this, there'll be a lot of opportunity. And are there any other presentations that you're doing in Phoenix or anything that people could come?
I'm actually hosting my first retreat in October right outside Sedona. It's for women only, and it's for people who are wanting to overcome trauma from sexual abuse and just heal and step into their femininity and joy and love and let go of any barriers that were created because of that.
And one last thing, is there any presentations with iEmpowerment that you're presenting or co-presenting with others? Do you have any of those coming up?
Yes, I do. I have one in August that I'm co-presenting with Maggie. It's about the healing power of water. And we're really going to be talking about how you can program water. It holds emotions, consciousness, and really how you can transcend situations by really getting a hold of water, really getting clear of the element, your emotions, and really processing them. So we're really excited for that. It's going to be in August. I had written it down, but I believe it's August 18th. But if you guys check out the iEmpowerment website, it'll come up.
You got it. And also you can find out what the location is and the number to register, which is through iEmpowerment, I believe, as well. So they'll take care of all of that. Bobby, Dulce, awesome, darling. Thank you so much.
Stay right there, and I will control everything.
Awesome.
I just want to tell everybody, hey, listen, you've just been listening to Jamie Clark and his guest. Come on, Jamie. Oh, God. Dulce, so she is an unbelievable lady. She does the regression. She does a whole bunch of stuff. If you miss her at all, and you want to get in touch with her ASAP, the addresses are all over the blog, all over the Facebook. If you need anything, write to BobCharlesShow@live.com, and I will get it to you in seconds, if not faster. Thank you very much for being on the show, Jamie, and View of Humanity. Good night. God bless y'all. Bob Charles.
I love it.